Hi everybody, I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps. Today I'm going to show you how to fold your fabric to make an origami market bag. To make an origami tote, you need a rectangle that's 3 times as long as it is wide. The sample I'm using for this video has square sections of 3 different colors with angled corners where the handles will be. This is a rather large piece of fabric, so it gets a little unwieldy on the video. So first I'm going to show you on paper, and then we're going to do it on the actual fabric. Looking at this paper, I've marked the 3 colors. So this was our section in color A. This is how we crocheted it. We crocheted color A, then we crocheted color B, and then we crocheted color C. And each of these color sections are approximately square. Now on the back side I marked A, B, and C as well. And here you can see I've clipped the corners slightly. This is where we did those increases and decreases to get slightly shaped corners. Okay, and these little dots right here, these are where you would have your stitch markers. So now if we lay the fabric this way, sideways, okay, start with color A. We're going to take the pointy end, so not the clipped corner, the pointy corner, and we're going to fold it down to meet the edge where it changes to color B. So my folds aren't absolutely perfectly exact here, but we're going to fold it down so that the top of A here meets the edge of B. You'll see what happens in the corner is that this clipped edge, the ends of it come together where the stitch markers are, comes together at the corner. And we're going to go ahead and remove one of the stitch markers and use the other one to clip those 2 together. So now that's clipped together there. Now come over to the other side and we're going to do the same thing. In this case we folded it down because this was the pointy corner. In this case we're going to fold up because this is our pointy corner. So we fold the pointy corner up so that it meets the border with the next color. And again, we remove one stitch marker and use it to hold this corner together. Okay, now our corners are held together like that. So we have a parallelogram with these clipped corners that are going to become the handles. The last thing to do is to fold a diagonal line across the middle with color B so that we create the bottom of the bag. This right here, this is going to be the bottom of the bag. So we just bring this corner of B up to meet that corner, and now we have a bag. And again, my folds aren't exactly even, but if they were, this line, would meet up right with the edge of C and all of that. So you can see here my line's a little bit off. That line should meet right with that point, but my fold wasn't perfect. I don't think this was exactly 1:3 ratio when I cut it perfectly. So the last thing to do then is we're going to sew this edge of A to this edge of B, and again the corners should meet up perfectly if I folded it right, and there's more give in fabric to do that as well. And then we fold this edge of C so that it lines up with this edge of B. We sew that together. Okay? And then once that's sewn together, we have a bag, right? So now let's look at that on the actual fabric. Here is my color A section of the fabric. Ignore these ends. I should have woven them in before the video, but I'll leave them in later. So here is my clipped edge with the 2 stitch markers, and that's right down here in this corner. And here is the pointed edge, and again I should have woven that end in, but I'll leave it in later. So I'll take this pointed edge and I just fold it down to this corner where it meets color B. Make sure that this edge lines up nice and straight all along the corner where it meets color B. Okay? Notice that as I do that, these 2 stitch markers come together. So I'm going to take off one of the stitch markers that's marking my corner there, and I'm going to use the other stitch marker to kind of hold those 2 corners together. Just like that. Now this right here, this little ring that I've just formed, that's where my handle's going to go. So this is marking my handle. This edge meets this edge, and this edge meets this edge. Now let's move over to the other side. Now what we've done so far was we folded the corner of color A down and we joined where these two stitch markers met. Okay? Now looking here, this is color C, and I have my clipped corner up here with the two stitch markers, and then I have my pointed corner down here. Okay? So in this case, I'm going to bring that pointed corner up to meet the edge of color B. So we bring this up, just like that, and make sure that this line is nice and straight where it meets color B. Okay, so fold that nice and crisp, and then fold this nice and crisp up here, and these two corners, when you fold it, these two corners will now meet. Okay, so now again we've got two stitch markers. I can take one out and I can use the other stitch marker to kind of join those two together, and this becomes the top where my other handle is going to go. So now I have my two corners folded in. So if we're looking at our paper here, what I've done is I folded down A, I folded up C. Now the last thing to do is to fold this whole side up so that it forms the bag. Okay, so I'm pushing this off to the side here. I'm going to take my folded piece of A that's right here, zhuzh it a little bit, make sure it's nice and even, and bring this whole piece up so that the green corner, the color B corner, meets this other color B corner. Get all my ends out of the way, and this green corner needs to meet that green corner. And that is how we fold the bag. Now this edge, this green edge, this blue or color B edge, is going to get joined to this edge here. So you can use additional stitch markers if you want to hold this in place. I just lost my stitch markers, but you could use additional stitch markers to pin this together along this edge, and then you flip it over, and this edge here, you flip the whole thing over. Oh, there's a stitch marker. This edge here is now going to join up with this edge. This edge of A will join up with this edge of B. So we're going to sew those seams where A meets B and where C meets B, and make sure that they come to a point here. So I would actually start here with the sewing and maybe pin them together with some stitch markers so that you know you get a nice even seam over here. When you sew them together, use a whip stitch or something that's going to pull the seam to the inside, and then we'll turn it inside out again when it's all nicely seamed, and you won't see the seams at all. So I would take a piece of either of the colors, and I would take a longer piece than this. I'm just showing you with the tail. But I would take a nice long piece of either of these colors, start in this corner, and just start whip stitching together like this. Just keep going in the same direction all the way along the seam. Now I finished sewing this seam here and this seam here, and I did this on the wrong side of the work. Now it's time to flip it right side out. So I'm just going to reach in, grab the corners, and turn it right side out. So we've done the main bag. We have the bag assembled, and now what I'm going to do is attach the handle. When I crocheted the handle, I left an extra long tail at the beginning and an extra long tail at the end so that I could sew it on easily. So the way that we attach the handle is, I see where my marker is there and it creates this little loop, right? I'm going to shove my handle into that loop. Nice and flat. I just flattened it and shoved it in. And it's just going under the edge. So you can see on this side I've just got it under the edge, just enough to hold it there. Okay? And then I'm going to bring this yarn up. Where is this yarn? It's right here. So I'm going to bring it up under the edge of that first stitch. Okay? So now I've got my handle sort of nestled into this little loop of yarn. It's kind of, the stitches are kind of wrapped around the handle, right? Now I can sew straight through, or I can try to keep the layers separate. I'm going to try and keep the layers separate, and I'm going to work a back stitch. And I like the contrast color for the seam. If you don't, you can definitely do this in a different yarn. So you can see through the hole there that the green is peeking through. So I know that I'm picking up green, right? I know that I've got green under here. And I'm just going to do a back stitch all the way around here. So there was one back stitch, and see, it gives you that contrast seam, right? There's another back stitch. Looking for that green, making sure I'm picking up both layers. Go back a little bit and then forward. And now once I get to the stitch marker, if it's getting in my way, I can remove it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that because everything should be pretty well secured by now. And that gives me a little more flexibility of motion here too. Now I'm going back a stitch, and I'm going to come out on the other side here. Back a stitch, and then forward. Back a stitch, and then forward to where we started. Okay, and so I like that little bit of contrast stitching there. Again, if you don't, you can definitely do it in this color yarn. So I'll weave this end in. Okay, I've woven that in. Now for the next one, I want to make sure that when I connect these, it's not super twisted, right? Like I don't want my tube all twisted up like this, unless that's the look you want. So I'm going to bring both my edges up like that so that they're both facing the same way. I've got the bag down here, right? And then I'm going to take and flatten this piece so that it's nice and flat and straight, and make sure that it's coming into this edge the same way. So then I'm going to push it in through here. There we go. And bring the tail up through the end there. And then I start doing my back stitch all the way around. So go back a little, go forward, go back a little, then go forward. Back up where we started. Okay, so there is that handle. I just weave in this end. And that's how you fold and seam an origami bag with a handle. The full pattern for the bag that I've shown in this video is available on my website at stitchesandscraps.com. See the description on this video for the link. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, or leave me a comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more great videos. Thanks for watching!